Good afternoon. Thanks for joining us. I'm Michelle Dunnick, Director of Events and Investor Relations at United Way of Southeast Louisiana. United Way of Southeast Louisiana, together with the Louisiana Hospitality Foundation and Entergy Corporation, are proud to support Phase 2 of the Hospitality Cares Pandemic Response Fund, which provides legal support and counseling services for the hospitality industry. In partnership with Southeast Louisiana Legal Services and Loyola Center for Counseling and Education. To register for future events on hospitality-focused topics, visit unitedwaysela.org/hospitalitycaresevents. For today's webinar, we have welcomed hospitality workers from around the state. If you're out of the United Way Southeast Louisiana's 7-parish service area, I suggest that you check what resources are available in your parish, as each nonprofit has a different service area. So now I am going to turn this over to our staff attorneys, Constance and Marie at Southeast Louisiana Legal Services.
Hi, thanks, Michelle. It's great to be here today for our third rendition of Know Your Rights. As everyone knows, a new stimulus package has come out. We're excited to talk to you about that today. Again, my name's Constance Touye. I'm with Southeast Louisiana Legal Services. I'm here with my colleague, Marie Renee Contreras, and we're staff attorneys for our Employment and Benefits Unit. We mostly deal with unemployment relief during COVID-19. And we're here to talk to you in detail about that today because there's been some changes made, and we're also here to talk to you about direct cash payments. And we've also brought on a guest speaker that we're very excited about, Professor Dodes, and she's here to talk to you about local activism, and we're going to bring her in towards the end of this, after the substantive conversation. We're going to bring her in towards the end, and then we're going to open the floor up to questions. I know some of you have submitted questions beforehand. Marie and I have those. We went over those this morning. We're eager to answer them for you. So I'll go ahead and share my screen, and I'll take the first leg of this, and then Marie and I will go back and forth. So I suppose we'll get going. Let's see, share screen, PowerPoint, share. All right. So like Michelle Dunnick said, we're here with the Hospitality Cares Foundation, United Way, Southeast Louisiana, and we're attorneys with Southeast Louisiana Legal Services. Today's seminar is Understanding the Second Stimulus Package and What It Means to You. Today's agenda, we're going to go over first direct cash payments. That's also known as the $600 check that everyone's referring to. We're going to go over unemployment benefits, old and new. It helps to understand the old benefits and how they translate into new benefits. We're going to go over common issues and resolutions because Marie and I see a lot of problems that aren't unique to clients. They're widespread and they happen time and time again. So if we can help you solve them on your end quicker, that's our goal today. And then we're going to go over some general resources. And we're also going to go over with Professor Dodes writing your state representatives. If you have compelling stories or your needs aren't being met, or you've tried to remedy your situation and you're not getting any traction with LWC, maybe this might be a helpful route for you. And then we're going to do a live Q&A. So that about covers it. And we'll go right into direct cash payments. That's the $600 check. And first, eligibility, it's generally U.S. citizens, resident aliens who cannot be claimed as a dependent on another person's tax return. And when we talk about tax returns, we're talking about 2019. You have to meet the adjusted gross income from 2019. And those numbers for an individual is $75,000. And then if you're a head of household, that's going to be $112,500. These two situations typically qualify for the full $600 check. Now, in some situations, you may be slightly over that, but not over the cap. And then you'll see like that amount is going to vary. And I believe it's for every $100 you're over the two numbers I just went over, it's $5 removed from the $600 check is how I understand the math. Again, attorneys don't care for math, but that is my understanding. So the caps would be $87,000 for an individual and $174,000 for couples filing jointly. But if you're a couple married filing in jointly, you should receive a $1,200 payment. Qualifying children also receive $600 per child. It's different than the last stimulus relief. The last stimulus relief, if you had dependents, qualified children that were 17, they were eligible. That's not the case now. They have to be under 17, and that includes adopted children. And then adult dependents qualified for the first stimulus check, but they do not qualify for this stimulus check, and that was a common question we've seen. So those are just a shorthand of eligibility. And then a lot of clients are calling out because they haven't received their payment. And I know money now is better than money later, but payments are expected to be received by this Friday, January the 15th. And you'll either receive them by mail, which is a check or a debit card, or a direct deposit into your bank account. Typically how you got it last time reflects how you'll get it this time, but that's not always the case. And you have to look if your bank account information has changed. For example, I moved, so I was nervous maybe that would create a problem, but it didn't. And then if you're interested to see the status of your payment, your $600 payment, this link here to the irs.gov as displayed is a great way to look at the status of your payment and where it is and what's going on. And again, I moved and I looked it up, and it was, you were paid on this date, a direct deposit. So we found that very helpful. And what you need to provide to check on your payment, it's really easy information. It's one screen, you type it in, it's social security number, date of birth, street address, and your zip code. And then if you have further questions about your payment or why you're not receiving it or why you're ineligible or why there's a hang up, they're frequently asked questions I found were very, very helpful. They're detailed, they're narrow, they explain a lot of unique situations. So I suggest looking there before reaching out for help. And then another great resource that for those of you that are expecting to check by mail, and this is something, it's a free tool, it's a free service from USPS. It's informed delivery and it's mail tracking. And I use it because we work from home a lot as attorneys, and I have documents going in and out. I want to track mail coming to me and make sure it arrives in my inbox, especially sensitive documents. And it scans them and it lets you know where your mail is coming from and when it's due to you. So if maybe you have a check out there in the universe and it's working its way to you, this is a great way to track it and follow it. And then you can see if maybe it's going to a previous address. So I highly recommend using the service. And I just want to note, you don't have to scribble down these links. Michelle in United Way is going to repost this. It's going to be on YouTube. It's going to be on Facebook. So you'll be able to pause the video and screenshot and get these links as we go through this. So if you feel like we're moving it quickly, this will be repopulated and passed along to you. And then lastly, say it's past Friday and you haven't received your payment and you are eligible. The IRS is specifically asking that you don't call and try to recoup it and try to fight it. They're asking that you recover it in your tax return when you file this spring. So it's important that you don't wait to file your taxes. As soon as you have your documents together, the sooner you file, the more likely and the quicker you'll get your check. So the longer you wait on your taxes, you lengthen the time it takes to get your second stimulus check. And what it's called is a rebate recovery credit. And this applies for the $1,200 if you were eligible, and this applies for the $600 if you're eligible. I know we had a viewer today ask about the stimulus for babies born in 2020. So like an additional $600 for that dependent. And Marie and I were going over that this morning, and our understanding is that if you put it in your tax return, it will qualify. The child will qualify for the additional $600 for a child dependent. And then I also, in some of your questions before the meeting, you asked if this would be considered income, and specifically the $1,200 and the $600 payments, not other additional stimulus that are attached to benefits. I want to really highlight that. The $1,200 and $600 checks, they don't count as income, and they don't negatively count against your tax return. So just know that. And we're going to go in detail about other additions to benefits and whatnot and how that will affect your taxes. And this is a quick who qualifies. These are commonly asked questions, and these are people filing jointly, children under 17. And there has been some case law that's changed a little bit of who qualified, who doesn't qualify. So this is a quick rundown if you find yourself in a certain demographic here. And then I think next we have unemployment benefits. And I'm going to turn the floor over to the unemployment benefit expert, Marie, and we'll go from there.
Hi, so my name is Marie. So I'll be going over all these new unemployment programs that are available for you right now. It's really important to understand which unemployment program you're under because each program has different requirements and also different rules as to how to process your claim. Usually people ask if there's a different application for each program, but it's the same application that you do when you file for unemployment through the Louisiana Workforce Commission's Hire page, or if you do it over the phone through the phone line system. But a lot of people think that just because they're unemployed due to COVID, they're automatically a pandemic unemployment assistance recipient, and that's not necessarily true. So right now there's a state unemployment insurance, which is the one that's always available throughout the years, and then there's pandemic unemployment assistance, which was implemented through the CARES Act back in late March. Then there's pandemic emergency unemployment compensation, which is an extended benefit program, similar to previous extended benefit programs that are approved by the Department of Labor, but this one has been automatically approved due to the pandemic. And then there's the federal pandemic unemployment compensation program. And this program basically is the extra $600 that people were receiving between April 4th to July 25th. It's also the program that is now currently available where people are receiving that extra $300 starting for the weeks ending on January 2nd to March 13th. So knowing the difference between each program is important because, like I said, different rules apply. But for state unemployment insurance, you basically need to know that if you have enough earnings, which means enough W-2 earnings, then you will qualify for state unemployment insurance. There are situations where certain people might be gig workers or self-employed workers, but in their previous years, they've worked for, let's say, a retail store, or they worked at McDonald's, so you had a W-2 form sent to you at some period of your base period. If you have enough W-2 earnings in your base period, even if you were just a recent self-employed worker, you just started your catering business back in January of 2020, and so you say, well, why didn't I qualify for PUA, which is just technically the self-employment unemployment program? Well, it doesn't really work that way. It works depending on your base period. Constance and I discussed about what a base period is and how to, determine your base period. But basically, when you file for unemployment benefits, the agency will go back 6 months from the time that you filed. And then that year before the 6 months is calculated as your base period. So all of your earnings that you made during that year, that will be used to calculate your weekly benefit amount. So I know it sounds a little crazy because you're like, well, it should be based on my current, employment or my current salary. But unfortunately, it goes way back. And we've had situations where, recent college grads, they only worked at a couple of places, and then that's what their base period is based on instead of their actual graduate career where they were earning a lot more money. There's nothing that we can do about that, but unless our state legislature changes something or Department of Labor changes some guidance on it. But I know that Professor Dodez will probably give you some instruction on how to advocate to local representatives in changing laws, but unfortunately that is the situation that we're in, so your base period can't change. So if you're under state unemployment insurance, weekly certifications are required each week. If you don't file your weekly certification without an actual reason that's recognized by the agency, then you might not get paid for that week. There are some exceptions to the rule that we've kind of advocated for our clients, but the only thing is that those exceptions only apply if a person has a COVID-19 unemployment reason. So like I said, that's going too much into the weeds of different cases, but just know that state unemployment insurance, much stricter. Do your weekly certifications each week. You don't want to miss them. And if you're having a problem you want to contact the Louisiana Workforce Commission immediately, because sometimes the agency isn't as flexible or understanding that their system does have problems, especially their phone line system, when reporting weekly certifications. So the next slide is just quickly going over what I just said. If you had 1099 forms and you had W-2 forms, that's where we also see the problem. 1099 forms unfortunately cannot be counted for your base period when you're under state unemployment insurance. It's just not recognized because it's not a qualifying wage. But if you are in that situation, unfortunately, you have to stick with your earnings from your W-2s. Now, there are situations where some people might not have enough W-2 earnings, and so they're automatically put under pandemic unemployment assistance. But then again, you have to meet the second criteria for PUA, which is your unemployment is related to COVID-19. So your 1099s can count for PUA. On the next slide, we'll go over that. So pandemic unemployment assistance. Unfortunately, there's been some misleading information out there. Basically, people automatically assume, like I said, that they qualify for PUA because they were a gig worker. But you have to meet that criteria that you don't have enough wages in your base period. So if you have mixed employers, that creates a problem. But as long as you don't have enough wages in your base period and you meet the second requirement, which is that you were not able to work due to a COVID-19 reason, then you are a PUA recipient. And PUA, again, is short for Pandemic Unemployment Assistance. So if that confuses you, I just wanted to clarify that information out to you. This program originally lasted for 39 weeks. Now it lasts for 50 weeks. But the extra 11 weeks that was used, that was approved under the Continued Assistance Act, those 11 weeks can only count for the weeks starting after December 27th. So after December 27th, the week ending on January 2nd, that is your first week that you're going to be receiving for this extension program. For those of you who, did not exhaust their benefits whatsoever, you are still receiving PUA as of December 26th. You don't need to worry about this. This is more for people who, they were early recipients for PUA back in February, and then they, exhausted in December. Unfortunately, you can't retroactively place these 11 weeks. But in some sense, it's a good thing because that means your 11 weeks that you're starting now can qualify you to get that extra $300 under the federal Pandemic Unemployment Compensation Program. So, it's unfortunate that you can't retroactively do it, but in some sense, you're getting a little more, bank for the weekly certifications that you're doing now. So that's a plus side to the issue. The other thing is that under PUA, if you were a person who reported your income, you reported, your employment history, but you're under pandemic unemployment assistance because let's say you can't work due to your child being forced to be under the virtual learning programs that are currently available. If that's your situation, then you're under pandemic unemployment assistance because you don't meet the availability requirement under state unemployment insurance. So for that, you don't necessarily need to worry about this thing, but the new requirements for PUA are for those who are specifically self-employed workers. And if you don't have proof of your employment information, it might cause some delays with your payments. This is a new regulation that was added under the Continued Assistance Act. There's no really understanding as to how LWC is going to implement it, but for those who are receiving benefits starting for the weeks after December 26th, you're probably going to have notice sent to you, or someone from the agency might call you asking for you to provide this documentation. Like I said, I don't know how LWC is going to implement it, but I've already been seeing these issues for new applicants for under PU proof. So you might be in that situation. So you might want to just kind of gather all that information with you, just to, in case the agency does ask for it and you already have it immediately or you know where it's at. This reason doesn't have to be the only reason. You know, you might have other problems that might disqualify you or prevent payments from processing, but just know that if this is the only problem you have on your account, it shouldn't be a reason for disqualification. But like I said, the agency is always, you know, investigating, so there might be other problems, but it's important to just gather this information. That way you have it in hand. Again, the minimum weekly benefit amount is $107, and the maximum weekly benefit amount for POA is $247. And another thing about PUA is that originally you could go back to your original date of unemployment, and this date could have gone back all the way to January 29th, and then you could start receiving benefits for the periods from February on to December 26th. Congress made it a little stricter. So if you are a new PUA claimant and for whatever reason you did not successfully complete your application back in March, unfortunately, we cannot backdate your claim all the way back to that date. It can only backdate to December 1st of 2020. We haven't been provided any guidance as to whether there's an exception to this issue. But if there is proof that you tried to do your application back in March, you know, back in April, there's some ways that we can go around it. But if you just literally started your application today and you want to backdate, it's not going to be possible. And those are just restrictions that the new act stipulated. The next important thing is that you do have to be job attached. If you're not job attached, and then you apply for PUA, there is a chance that LWC is going to approve you. That might be an error because they're getting so many applications each week. And so unfortunately, we have seen clients be approved for pandemic unemployment assistance, and then they're later disqualified. There are some waivers that I'll talk about later in this presentation, but it's not, your unemployment is not related to COVID-19 under Section 2102 of the CARES Act. Unfortunately, there's no leeway. There hasn't been any clarification to that issue that we've been seeing, and this is all over the country. But if you were unemployed for, let's say, years of 2017 to 2019, in 2020, you were still unemployed for whatever reason, and then you applied for pandemic unemployment assistance, that's not enough to be under PUA. Even if you started searching for work, let's say in March of 2020, and it's just, there was no work available, that's not a COVID-19 reason that you were unemployed. You have to be job attached. This is just a requirement. It's not my requirement, but it's just important to know because you don't want to have an overpayment problem. And if you're in that situation, we'll talk about some relief that's available now. But the next slide, we're going to talk about pandemic emergency unemployment compensation. And this is honestly one of my favorite programs because it's an extension for those who are under state unemployment insurance. So if you're a PUA recipient, most likely you're not going to be in this situation where you have to worry about an extended benefit program. There are some people that are the exception, but I don't want to go into the weeds of that situation. But if you are a state unemployment insurance claimant and you exhaust your benefits, like I said, during high periods of unemployment, there are extended benefit programs that are approved by DOL. Now, Congress knew that with COVID-19, this was going to be a problem with our unemployment rates. So they automatically approved Pandemic Emergency Unemployment Compensation, PEUC. This program is an extended benefit program that's already there with all of our state agencies. So they will transfer you to this program so you can continue receiving benefits. Unfortunately, it's not an automatic transition. You have to reapply for unemployment benefits before you can reach to PEUC. How do you do this? So Like I said, there's no separate application for each program. And you might think that's crazy, but actually this is a good thing in your favor because, like I said, if the agency is at fault for putting you under a program, it's their fault. So you can be considered for a waiver of overpayment. Now, you wouldn't want to apply for something that you didn't qualify. So one application is actually a good thing. So you'll have to reapply just the way you did when you originally applied for unemployment benefits. The system will then generate, sometimes we've seen clients get 2 messages and it says, you exhausted your benefits, you qualify for PUA. Don't rely on that false hope. You should be under PEUC if you have enough wages in your base period. So you want to make sure that you transition into PEUC. And like I said, you might get 2 notices, but that's just because the system auto-generates these messages, but the agency should correct it and put you under PEUC. Now, we have seen problems where the system takes too long, and that's because the benefits unit has to review each claim before they can approve it and let payments process. If you're in that situation, then, you know, our office is here to help if you're eligible for our services. But if you're doing this on your own, the perfect way to refile is to go into your hire account. If you don't have a hire account, you can call the help desk line, which the number is here provided for you, the 186 number. And their offices right now are open Monday through Friday, but I know because of the huge call influx, they have been extending their times to Saturday and Sunday. I'm not sure if they're continuing that, but I'm assuming they are. I keep seeing the messages when I, check on my clients' cases. So, you can call during those days if you're in that boat, especially if you're a PEUC claimant who exhausted on the 26th and you're trying to transition to the new extended program. PEUC is now 24 weeks instead of just an additional 13 weeks. And like I said, you can't retroactively use those extra 11 weeks, but there has been other ways where you can get benefits for those missing weeks. You can try to refile for PUA, but it's a different conversation and a different situation. Like if you are in that boat where you think you might qualify for benefits during those missing weeks, I can't give you advice on that unless I actually know your case and I know the facts to your case. But like I said, need help, SLS is here if you're eligible for our services. So yeah, you want to log into your hire account, and the next step is you will go under the menu section, and I have a slide next, it's just coming up, and the menu section is just right at the top left corner of your screen. It's so small here, but if you see my arrow, I'm pointing at it, you click on that, and then after that, you're gonna get like a list of things, and you wanna make sure you go to Services for Individuals, and after Services for Individuals, you'll click on Unemployment Services, and you'll see a bunch of other options, and you want to click the one that says File a Claim, not Weekly Claim Certification. I get that question all the time where it's like, I couldn't do my weekly claim certification like you told me. I'm like, no, you have to file a claim. So like I said, brand new unemployment application, same information you had to put in, and that way you can transition into PEUC. Another thing I just wanted to point out, so if you're in that week where you exhausted your benefits and you see that, this is your last payment, you want to make sure that your balance is 0 in your claim summary. Claim summary, again, click the same thing, Services for Individuals, Unemployment Services, and under that list, you got to scroll down, but you'll see Claim Summary, and then you click on that, and there you can check all your information, not only just your address information, but also your weekly certifications that have gone through. You can also check whether there are other issues pending on your account. And so it's a great resource, and that's why I always encourage, get your hire account. I know some people are like, I like calling in better, it's easier, I don't have to fill out anything, but your hire account is so important because you can check things without having to guess or wait for LWC to send you a letter. Sometimes, unfortunately, LWC should be sending you your messages through your preferred contact method. I mean, that is important for them to do, but There are times where they only send messages, or they will first send messages to your hire messages board. So if you check your hire account and you check your hire messages board, you can actually see if there are any requests for additional information. And that way you can see if there are other issues or things that might be of concern for your claim. But like I said, PUC, you see your balance hit 0. After that, you will refile, but you'll refile until the following Sunday after you received your last weekly benefit amount. So if today was your last payment from LWC under state unemployment insurance, you're going to file on Sunday for a PEUC. Don't file before, because the system's going to either prevent you from doing it, or it's just going to tell you you exhausted your benefits, you can't refile. So you want to wait till the following Sunday. And federal pandemic unemployment compensation, like I said, this was the original $600 extra benefits that you received each week during April 4th to July 25th. This program is now providing an extra $300, and it's only for the weeks after December 26th. So December 27th to January 2nd is the first week you're going to receive your $300 payment if you're eligible for any of the other unemployment programs I just discussed. It is not retroactive. I know that there was some false information out there, some YouTube videos giving this information that, oh, you can get this $300 for all these weeks that you were missing. That's not what Congress said. They did not approve that. It's only for the weeks continuing, and it ends on March 13th. So all these weeks, you're going to get that $300 as long as you're eligible for another program. There are no requirements the way the FEMA grant had it, where it's like, I remember when the FEMA grant was passed during the month of August to September 5th, you had that requirement that you at least was supposed to receive $100. That's not applied for FPUC. That's different, still a government agency funded program, but way different. And that was under FEMA, so they had different stipulations. So just know that even if you're getting $18 in your weekly benefit amount, you should be getting your extra $300 as well. I do want to talk about a phase out program, and the phase out program is for those under PEUC and PUA. The phase out program is supposed to give an additional 4 weeks of unemployment benefits for those who have not exhausted their benefit programs. So if you are one of those people, the March 13th deadline will not apply to you. You will actually receive benefits until April 10th, I believe. This is only for those who are receiving, again, pandemic emergency unemployment compensation and those receiving pandemic unemployment assistance. If you are one of those people, your benefits will continue. You don't have to do anything for that. It's only for those who didn't exhaust. So if you, let's say you're a PUA claimant, you have 50 weeks, you're on week 39 by the time March 13th hits, you're gonna get 4 more weeks. I don't have instruction as to whether there will be another extended program for those who had already exhausted their benefits. I mean, things can change. There's a new administration going on in less than 2 weeks, so it might change, but this is what we know now. The other thing is, unfortunately, the extra $300 under the Federal Pandemic Unemployment Compensation Program will not count for those extra 4 weeks. This program does end March 13th. It's a hard deadline, but the other programs, they'll continue for 4 more weeks. And I believe that's all for FPUC. Now Constance will talk about overpayments, which is a lot of fun too.
Yeah, overpayments are scary and stressful, and that's normally, I can't speak to Marie's experience, but that's normally when clients call us and they're like, oh my God, I got this letter, I answered everything truthfully and honestly and to the best of my knowledge, and LWC put me under this benefit, and now they're asking for X amount of dollars back, and normally it's a large sum, or it's the entirety of the payments they've received. So, it's very stressful. So when you receive an overpayment notice or a disqualification notice, they normally come together. There are ways to work with that. And Marie added this, and Marie, feel free to chime in. She added this to the slides because now, unlike before, what we were working with before this the second stimulus and these new decisions, PUA overpayments can be considered for a thing called waiver. We'll go into waiver detail. And LWA, lost wages assistance, can now be considered for waiver. We aren't sure how LWC is going to implement that. Marie and I were talking about it this morning. We're not sure if they're going to notify people that were charged overpayments with PUA and LWA that now they can retroactively ask for waiver. It's kind of an unprecedented, uncharted territory. So we're navigating that as it develops, basically. Because before, only FPUC and regular UI payments could be considered for waiver. And in short, you know, if you can't fight your disqualification, you can fight that you are due waiver. And it's kind of a three-pronged factor, and most arguments can be compelling right now. There wasn't fraud, you weren't at fault, and that it would be against good conscience for them to ask this money back of you and prove a financial hardship. So we'll go right into it. Overpayments are appealable, and to circle back to what Marie was saying, this is why you check your hire account often and always, and this is why it benefits you to have a hire account, because you can check it regularly. You don't have to wait on the phone for several hours to see what's going on. You can log right in just the way she showed you and check that inbox, because when they send you an overpayment or a disqualification notice, you have 15 days to submit an appeal. And it's once you miss your appeal deadline, it's near impossible, if not completely impossible. These deadlines are hard and fast to fight an overpayment charge. So often there will be more than one notice, like they'll break it up, and this is very confusing. You can get 2 disqualifications and 3 different overpayments. Sometimes they'll overlap, and it's a nightmare for us as an attorney. So, you know, navigating this as per yourself for the first time is very stressful. Some people are under the impression that if you appeal one of those, you appeal all of those, and that is absolutely not the case. You have to appeal each individual one. So this is why a hire account benefits you, because it's itemized right there in your inbox, and you know that, hey, I have 3 overpayments, I have 2 disqualifications, I need to make 5 appeals. And there's different ways to write your appeals. So read each letter in its entirety. I know it's a lot to look at first, but it has the instructions in great detail. And you can appeal in several ways. You can appeal online through your hire account. Again, why a hire account's useful. You can email your appeals. You can fill out the forms electronically, is how I do it with my clients, and then we email the clerk directly. And you check the box, electronically sign, or if you need to do it through snail mail because you don't have internet, you can fax or post the form. You can print them out, fill them out, and fax or post them in the mail. And again, the instructions walk you through it as you go through it. You don't necessarily need an attorney to appeal an overpayment, but if you feel like you do, or if you qualify for services, I highly recommend applying for services. And it's better to apply for legal aid at the start of this process than finding yourself entangled in an overappeal situation where you've started it and then it's not going well, and then we're trying to pick up in the middle of it, and it makes the situation more complicated. So if we can walk through it with you on the onset, that's the preferred way to do it, and it's the most effective way to do it. So again, if you're snail mailing, it's the Louisiana Workforce Commission Appeals Tribunal, and there's the address for you. And your appeal, regardless which form you send it through, needs to be postmarked before the 15-day deadline. This deadline excludes holidays and weekends, but there's no reason to push up to the edge of that deadline. It doesn't serve you well at all. And LWC, as everyone knows, is backlogged. So it's taking that much longer for them to review your appeal and set a date with an administrative law judge, ALJ. And so the sooner you get it in, the sooner you can work towards remedying your situation. Waiting to appeal doesn't do you any good. So don't count the days out and say, well, I have till the 22nd of this month and send it in. Get it in as soon as you can. And then if you need legal aid, legal assistance, and you qualify, call us and work through those intake processes and see if we can help you. So if you file appeal, this is a common question we have with clients. Like, I filed appeal, they said, I'm not due these benefits. Do I keep filing weekly certifications? And the answer is yes. Keep filing, because if you win, even if you're not paid, then you'll be paid in bulk at the end, and you'll receive the payments retroactively. So keep filing your weekly certifications. You will also be sent, when you appeal an overpayment, you'll be sent a form, and it's a consideration for waiver. It's a waiver questionnaire. You don't need an attorney to fill this out. You answer it truthfully and honestly, why it would cause you hardship, why you answered the questions the way you did. They ask you if you knew you shouldn't have gotten these benefits. And in most court situations, of course, you didn't know. They put you under that benefit plan after you answered all their questions. So you would fill that out. You can fill it out yourself. You don't necessarily need an attorney. I've had clients call me with a little question here or there, like, am I doing this right? And I always have them fill it out to the best of their ability, and they call me back and we'll kind of go over it, and then they email it into the clerk of appeals. And that could just circumnavigate litigation, right? So if they approve that waiver questionnaire, then you don't have to go before the administrative law judge, but often you do need to go to the administrative law judge. And it's a teleconference, and it's important that you itemize all your financial situations and your hardships, because a lot of the time the benefits you were receiving either barely got you by, or there was a financial gap. It didn't cover rent, bills, utility, Wi-Fi, because you're having to homeschool your child and whatnot. So make sure you're as detailed as possible in that questionnaire. It serves you well to really explain and tease out like your expenses. And it's a good argument for why those payments should be waived. So proof of expenses. So you can attach the waiver to your appeal, but it needs to be uploaded in the appeals section of your hire account before you're over at least 2 business days before the day of your hearing. And then the ALJ, the administrative law judge, is not required to accept or review any documents that are not on time. So anything you're bringing in to the hearing, you need to, especially if you're working with an attorney, we'll make sure it comes in before. But if you're self-representing and you're going to this tele-hearing with an administrative law judge, make sure you email all of your documentation at least 2 business days to the clerk. Anything you would like to reference or bring in, or evidence that, say you were furloughed due to COVID, your restaurant's closed down, and you have a letter from your boss saying he told me not to come back to work. This is why I started claiming unemployment. Anything like that would need to be brought to the clerk for your evidence record beforehand, right? If you do not have a hire account, you may also submit forms in one of the following methods, and this includes your waiver questionnaire. You can email, fax, postmail, like we discussed before. But I mean, we can't emphasize, like, use a hire account. It really helps, especially if you get entangled in this and you want to come to legal aid. It lets us log into an account quicker, easier, and streamline the whole process. So if you appeal, the process it's long, and it's taking longer than it's ever had before. To my experience and other attorneys in the unit, we're waiting quite a long time to get appeal dates once we file an appeal. So you submitted your appeal before the deadline on your letter. A telephone hearing will be scheduled with an ALJ. Unless the agency recognizes like a really obvious problem and they fix it on their own beforehand. So you'll be sent a letter with the hearing date, the time, the reason for the hearing, and you need to read this letter carefully. So when you initially file your appeal and your waiver, you'll get an acknowledgement from the tribunal and the clerk, but that won't necessarily have a date on it. So just because they acknowledge it, it takes them, they're saying 7 to 10 days, but that's extended now. And then they're saying it could take up to 45 days to schedule. So just because you have that acknowledgement doesn't mean you don't stop checking. You need to keep checking because you're going to get sent a letter with this information. This is what's important. So at the hearing, it's a teleconference hearing. The judge will ask you to explain your rights, or the judge must also explain your rights. These rights include the right to speak for yourself, have witnesses with important information speak. You go over the entire record of documents. These are the documents we were talking about needing to be submitted 2 business days before your hearing. And you can object to any improper evidence or testimony. For example, you know, a common one we see is hearsay. And that's basically it can come in, but it can't be held as a truth, right? So if you're given the opportunity to appeal, or if you're not given information on your hearing, you should contact a lawyer as soon as possible. So we have some situations where clients are just, their benefits are exhausted, they've tried to refile and they were just denied. And you know, they qualified for the initial 26 weeks and then they wound up in the situation that I've seen where they just couldn't refile. And that's when it's time to get an attorney involved. And we're gonna go over, if you don't qualify for SLS services, there are modest means attorneys and whatnot that you can apply for. And because at this point, I mean, Marie, correct me if I'm wrong, it's kind of a due process claim. Like you haven't been given your rights to appeal. So at the hearing, you'll have the opportunity to explain why the overpayment is incorrect. So that would be your first argument. It's kind of 2 prongs. And or why the state claims that you need to repay this is incorrect. So you kind of fight the disqualification, right? Like why this was incorrect in general. And then like I was saying, I'm going to turn it over to Marie. Then you can make the argument like, well, if you're going to hold me to that this is incorrect and I was wrongly situated, I'm due waiver. And so at least you can win on that front where you don't have to pay this enormous sum of money that you didn't expect to repay back. So if you have any questions on that, I know it's really cumbersome and complicated. We'll open up the live Q&A for that. So, and each situation is unique, so it's kind of hard to give an easy explanation, but I'll turn it over to Marie, because what we're also seeing with a lot of overpayment claims right now are identity and fraud notices, and they are stopping process of payments. They're giving clients a lot of headaches, so I'll let her take over from here.
Okay, so identity and fraud notices, this is like literally a nightmare for us at our office because you really don't know whether you have this issue until sometimes when you reach out to us. But like I said, LWC should be providing notice to you. And I know Constance also, you know, it's a due process violation if LWC is stopping your benefits without an actual notice telling you what is it that they need for you to continue receiving your benefits. So identity and fraud notices have been sent out as back late November, but I have been seeing some clients saying that they had this issue way before. The new legislation that came out 2 weeks ago now with the Continued Assistance Act also requires for state agencies to be a lot stricter about verifying that claimants are who they are. So there is no way that we can, you know, say LWC, you should just stop requiring these, you know, crazy ways to provide this documentation. It's just been a new agenda for each state agency that they need to verify claimants and make sure that claimants are actually eligible for services, for benefits. So unfortunately, that's the position we are right now. But if you receive this notice, most likely it was sent to your hire account. I want to say that it should have been sent to also your, you know, if you prefer to get contacted by your email or by mail, that was and should have been the appropriate way for you to get this information. But because it's a systematic issue, Louisiana Workforce Commission sent it through Hire because there's a secure portal that they can go ahead and easily check the information that you provide versus them sending you a letter and then you having to mail out these documents. We've tried our best to advocate for an easier process, but the agency has been very adamant about how this is, sensitive information that you're sharing with them. And so this is the easiest way that they have available right now. So how do you know if you're one of these affected claimants? Like I said, checking your hire account is the best way. But I know if those of you who don't have a hire account, and you only rely on phone communication with LWC, a good way is to call the agency. And I know in a further slide I have that information for you. But calling the agency is one way to do it. I know that's impossible. And so you're probably screaming at the screen right now telling me that I've tried that a million times, but that is the only other way, unless you're able to create a hire account, at the library, or maybe have a friend who can, let you borrow a computer or something like that. Our agency doesn't have the capacity to set up hire accounts for all of our clients. But if you're in a situation where you're homeless, you don't have access to a computer, you don't even have transportation to go to a library, we understand those issues, and we will try our best, to help with that. We can't guarantee we can help everyone with setting up a hire account. It's just, we're only a couple of attorneys in one unit. So, but sometimes occasionally we'll have interns who can help with this process. So, feel free to call if you're in that position. But you will check your hire account for these messages, and then they're requesting one document in particular, which is your driver's license. But some notices have been sent where they tell you, oh, we actually need 2 other pieces of information from you. Some people only got this generic message that literally lists the stuff that I have before you on the screen. It just says your driver's license or your US passport, just one document. But occasionally they want more than just one document. I've advocated, what is the problem? Why do y'all request all this other information? And LWC's response was, well, sometimes a lot of claimants, they'll upload a driver's license that is kind of blurry, or it has expired. And so they require you to also upload a picture of your social security card, and also a selfie picture with you holding your social security card and your driver's license. It used to be just a selfie holding your social security card. Now they're asking you to upload a picture with both documents before you. So I know that sounds kind of weird, having to take a picture like that. But if you are in that position where you received a notice and you uploaded your government ID, you uploaded, both a picture of the back and front of the government ID or your passport, upload the social security card and also upload the selfie with you holding these documents. Just do it. It could be that that's holding up your claim. Another reason why LWC has required additional documents is because sometimes, I know especially during this time where people unfortunately are losing their homes or moving to different places, sometimes the address that you might have provided in your hire account for your claim does not match your driver's license address. So that becomes, it's flagged as an error in their system, and they will say, well, this might not be the actual person that's claiming for, your account. And it's probably, it is you. We're living in such a weird time. So that's another reason why LWC is requiring more documents than they originally wanted. And again, it's to verify that it's who you are, and especially those who are receiving their benefits through a debit card, they want to make sure that they're mailing out the debit card to the right address, instead of just mailing it out to an address that you list as your address. And then the next slide. So I just got a question that says, should an applicant get updated ID or license with an address? I mean, if you want to update your information, that's always a good way to do it. But, I don't want to say go through all this hassle of making sure everything aligns and is the same exact information. If you are one of those people that lost their social security card for, I know Louisiana just experienced like 2 hurricanes in the fall, and you lost that, your social security card, you only have your driver's license, you might want to go ahead and change, try to match up your information. When LWC triggers that they need your social security card, a picture of your social security card, a lot of times they've been very adamant about us providing that documentation before they release any kind of payments. So we can't force them to change anything in that situation. We've a lot of times, Constance and I are like, we argue with LWC, that this person literally lost their social security card and are waiting on it. So if that is something that might help, I would say do it, try to match up your information as best as you can, if that's easier than waiting for a social security card. And this slide kind of goes over the same information that I just said. You don't have to provide your original government identification document. So I know that's something that some people accidentally do. Especially those who don't have a hire account, they'll just like, oh, if they need it, I'll just mail it over to them. Don't do that. They don't want you to mail any documents. They're, obviously having an exception for those who just cannot have a hire account and cannot take a picture and upload. They recognize that this information is very sensitive, so please do not send your original, forms, your original social security card or your birth certificate, whatever it is. Don't send it like that, because LWC is not going to be held liable for losing a document and sending it back to you. They're super backlogged right now, and they're not going to care about trying to get that back to you on time or whether in a safe manner. So just take a picture of it. If you're that person who needs to mail out a picture of your identification information, I suggest that you take the picture, print it out. On the back of it, write your name, your last name, also your telephone number, and you want to also put your claimant ID number and your claim number. That information you can, if you are a person who doesn't have a hire account, you can check it by reviewing any notice that you had from LWC. Your claimant ID number and your claim number should be listed on the top of each form or notice that they have sent to you to your house. Another way to check this is calling the LWC help desk line number. They should have this information for you. They should, identify you by the last 4 digits of your social security number. So they'll have that information too. But if you have a hire account and you're going to mail out this information for whatever reason, just make sure you have all those 4 things. So you want to have your first and last name. You want to have your telephone number where they can reach out to you. That's important. Always make sure your contact information is correct and updated, because I had situations where clients, they lost their phone and now are using their sister's phone, and LWC is trying to reach out to them, but they're reaching the dead phone instead of your sister's phone. So update that information if you can. And then you also want to put your claimant ID number and your claim number. Those 4 things, that way LWC can know that this document is for you. Yes, you're like, well, they should know my picture's on there, but they don't know you. They don't know that you are who you are unless you tell them. So just put that information on the back. Believe it or not, there's multiple John Smiths out there. So you don't want to you want to make sure your documents go to the right John Smith, not some random John Smith. It does happen. We have sometimes, LWC will tell us which Jamie are you talking about, and we have to verify the last 4 digits of their social security number. So that's what you want to provide. The next slide, I believe it might have the address where you can send. Okay, no, this is another thing. So the notices that were sent had a secure portal link, and there were some glitches with the secure portal link. It was not allowing people to upload one document, and then it was asking for a second document, but it couldn't, it only gave you a certain limitation as to what kind of documents you could upload. if you're in that boat where the secure portal link just does not work, another safe way to upload your documents is by going through the document page, the document management section. So just the way I told y'all before about clicking the menu, going to services for individuals, you're going to keep scrolling down. It's the last option, and it's like my documents. There you can it'll give you an option once you click to upload any kind of document. You can even upload, you know, an invitation to your wedding. Literally, it can be anything you can upload there. But your selfie picture and your social security card, I believe there's no label for those documents. So when you upload your document to the My Upload document page, you're going to have to provide a description as to what kind of document you're uploading. And so under document management, you'll upload the document, provide a title. I usually tell people to put other, especially for that selfie picture one, and then just put other, and then underneath they'll give like there's a little comment box where you can put a description of your document. So just put, you know, it doesn't have to be complicated, just something simple like my selfie with blah, blah, blah. That's all you need to do. And then after that, it should, you know, save it and then upload, and it should be good to go. There is an email address where you can basically update LWC that your document paid, you know, your identification documents were uploaded, especially those who couldn't use a secure portal link. So I know that's in a different slide, and we'll get to it, but there might be a slide before that. Oh yeah, so this is again the document description information, but I'll get to the email address that you can send a little confirmation that you uploaded your documents. But like for those of you who don't have your Hire account and you're relying on the phone, this slide basically provides information as to when is your designated call-in day, and also the number to call the help desk line. So anyone can call in on Fridays, but for those, you know, if your Social Security ends with a certain digit, then you might not be able to get to a person on another day. So just remember, call in on Fridays. Right now they have that extended hours and days to call in. So you can call in on Saturday and Sunday as well. But again, that's the information. If you're one of those people that needs to mail in, I would suggest to also email LWC to the email address. Even if you know, I know that sounds kind of like crazy, like why should I email them if I'm mailing it? But if there's a possibility that you can, you know, email them, let them know that it's on its way. It might help, and also might force an agent to be on the lookout that this person is, that you're trying to mail out your identification, copies of your identification documents. But this is the address that LWC provided to me. They told me that this is the other safe, you know, safer way to do it. Again, they encourage you to do it through your Hire account, but the address is BPC Investigations, and it's a PO Box 91254 in Baton Rouge. That's, you know, the last resort if you absolutely cannot do it any other way. And then, like I said, most notices do have deadlines. I don't believe there was a deadline on most of the identification notices, but the longer you wait, the longer it takes to resolve any issue. So you don't want to just say, oh, I have till next week, because then you're going to be without benefits for several weeks. And so this is the slide where I'm talking about. So claimants, you have to email the ID proof at lwc.la.gov. You want to put the subject line and label it as selfie once these documents have been uploaded to your Hire account. And like I said, this might also be another way for you to contact if you're mailing out your documents too. And another good tip, if you're mailing out your documents, and don't just mail it out and put a stamp on it. Go to your, you know, if you can go to your local postal office and get like a date stamped on the form, that is a very good tip, because then you can go ahead and, you know, the agency gets the letter, the envelope, you can, that's proof that you sent it out early on a certain date. Even before the person that is working at the postal office takes it away, ask them if you can take a picture of the envelope with the stamp date. That way you have proof that you sent it out as well. These are just tips that I'm coming up in my head, how to make this easier for you. But anything helps, because the more proof you have that you have tried to do your weekly certifications, that you've tried to do, you've tried to provide all this information for them, the better you look as a person that, you tried your best. And I know that these suggestions sometimes sound like they're hard, because they are hard. You can't keep up with all this information. We're living through a pandemic where I cannot document everything that's happening in my life. But the more proof you have, the better it is for your case. And even if you have a disqualification notice later on regarding the identification issue, you can provide this to an administrative law judge and say, I did my best. It is not my fault. It is the agency's fault for not receiving or locating the documents I provided. That's where we come in, and we can help with that process too. But if this is something you can do on your own in the meantime while you're waiting for us to help you, this is great. And share this information with everyone that you can. That's basically all I have for the fraud investigation. And like I said, just because you don't have a notice in your hire account message board, you haven't received this notice, doesn't mean it's not going to come up. They're trying to do this for every claimant. So this information is going to be helpful for you. I've had people who are just getting that investigation identity notice right now. So it's coming. You just have to, it's something we have to bear with. It's an obligation that all agencies have right now towards the Department of Labor. So.
Yeah, and just to circle on what Marie already said, I've found this route to be very effective with clients who have already uploaded everything on Hire, done their due diligence, all the slides above, and had issues. Going this route, them emailing these documents with the selfie to idproof@lwc.la.gov got a quicker response than I did with my contact through the agency, because they would get right back to the client. There was no middleman, and they'd say, well, this is too blurry, or this is that, and this is what needs to be fixed. And I've found this route to be very effective and helpful, and it is a big problem right now. So next, I know we're going over because we always do. I'll run through general resources and commonly asked questions really quick, and then I'll turn it over to Professor Dodez, and then we'll open it up for live questions. If we can't answer your questions, I'm happy to put my email and my phone out there, and if you want to give me a call, if you're hospitality related, and I can take your questions. If I don't know it, I'm happy to research it. So just a free legal aid directory for people. So if you're looking for online legal help, these websites are free. They're very helpful. They'll show you what parishes you qualify for services in if you're in a SLS-based service area. And then if you don't qualify for legal aid, we highly recommend going to the Louisiana State Bar Association's website that's listed there for modest means attorneys. And then if you just need a quick answer for any reason, there are freelegalanswers.org. Those are very helpful. We like to send people there. And then we also, this is the entity that Marie and I work for. This is Southeast Louisiana Legal Services. We have an intake website. And then if you don't have access to internet, we have an intake line. And if you do have access to the internet, we also have a very helpful blog. And it covers an entirety of issues, everything from housing to employment to, and much of them are COVID related. And there's some very helpful resources for you there. And then we always like to say, and this is a helpful thing I give to my clients, like Marie said, we're living through a pandemic right now. It's extremely stressful. The Keeping Calm Through COVID hotline has provided 24-hour assistance where you can talk to a trained counselor. I've had clients call me very stressed, and I've directed them here, and this was a great outlet for them to kind of mitigate the stress while we work on the legal side of things. So it's it's a holistic perspective to handling this, because it is complicated and it is a lot, and there's a lot of waiting. So we found this as a useful resource while we're trying to fix issues. And then I'll turn it over to Professor Dodes and allow her to screen share. I'll stop sharing my screen.
Right. Okay, let me just put this in slideshow mode. Sorry, I haven't done the share screen thing in a while.
Just go to next to animations, it's like home, insert, draw, slideshow, and then play from start.
Okay, hi everybody. I'm gonna be really brief here. I'm just gonna basically try and give you the foundations for contacting representatives and attempting to, through an individual means, put pressure on lawmakers. Just as an individual act that you can do, letter writing can be a really effective way to put pressure on your elected officials for policy change. And a good place to start is usually with state representatives, so your state congressmen and your state senators. Typically we forget about them, but since in the federal system we have, states have an awful lot of agency and leeway in terms of lawmaking. That's actually the far more effective way to start in terms of who you want to talk to first and who you want to try and put pressure on as far as lawmakers go first. Letter writing is probably one of the easiest forms of civic action you can take outside of voting, and can be an effective way to put pressure on those elected officials. So you can either send an email, which is probably more common nowadays, or you can actually take time to write a letter and email it to them. I want to start with giving you some really general tips for letter writing, and we can possibly even formulate some sort of template and some more specifics that I can send to the other panelists later to disseminate to you guys if you're interested. But in general, if you're trying to contact your representatives, you want to write them a letter. There are just a few general rules of thumb you want to follow. The first one is to use proper salutations, be formal, direct it to them specifically. So don't use language like "to whom it may concern" or "hey." Use "Dear Representative Carpenter," for example. Another thing you want to avoid is using any sort of accusatory language. If you're writing to lawmakers, obviously you're writing because you have some sort of dissatisfaction or you have grievances, but you really want to avoid accusing them of being the cause of your grievance. That's a really quick way for your letter to be ignored. So you want to use polite language, you want to be informative, you want to, if you can, offer recommendations, like tell them specifically what you would like to see different, the changes you would like to see, and why. You also want to be, though, brief and to the point. You want to strike a balance between sticking to informative main points, but also connecting this to like your personal experience. So you don't want to go on a long-winded story about how a specific policy has personally hurt you or negatively affected your life, but you do want to mention that. You do want to express the hardship, again, without going into an accusatory tone. So, being concise and using polite and informative language is a good way to get that letter actually looked at. So I want to share some links too of how you can figure out who to contact, like who your state representative is. So first here, the first link I just clicked on, which said find your representative on the PowerPoint, it takes you to this page, and you'd put in your address, the city, and your zip code. So I have one already pulled up here with the office address, and I'll just show you as an example. So it pulls up the course for the district, for the constituency you are a part of. It would pull up your House representative, so your House congressman in the State House and State Senate here. So, and then you can click on their names. And if this wasn't going so slow, you would see that it pulls up all the information you need. So here's their, if you wanted to email them, there's the email. If you wanted to actually mail in a letter, this is the mailing address you'd send it to. And you can also call. Calling isn't typically as effective because there's no chance it'll be looked at. But one good thing about letter writing is typically you do get a response. Like, this is something that representatives are supposed to do. Like, this is part of their job. They're supposed to respond to letters. So that's why it's probably more effective than actually trying to call them. Specifically, since there's been a lot of talk in this panel about, you know, unemployment benefits and such, you could also contact the committee that's, you know, directly relates to unemployment benefits and unemployment insurance at the state level. So I've provided a link here for the House committee. And again, whenever this pulls up, it's going to show you who the chair is of the committee. So that's for the Committee on Labor and Industrial Relations, works on unemployment compensation and workers issues. So you can, again, click on the email link here, say for the chairman, which is Barbara Carpenter, and it'll pull up the email. So and you can contact the other committee members, but I would start with the committee chair and maybe the vice chair. I also provided the link for the Senate committee, which provides the same information, but legislation, since it usually starts in the House, I would start with contacting the House committee. On that note, if anybody is interested in doing a group letter, because I mean, you can write individual letters, but sometimes it can be more effective to show a sense of group action and collective action if you draft a formal letter and then you have a bunch of names signed onto it. So for the possibility of potentially doing that in the future, I've started a poll here, which I'll go ahead and click on the link and just show you what you would do if you want to express interest in this. It would just ask you to provide your name and email, or so when you enter in the response here. So I just put, for example, my name, and then I'd put my email next to it. And then you'd hit submit. And that would be it. And we just kind of go from there and gauge interest. So with that being said, I'm gonna stop sharing my screen and turn that over.
Yeah, I think, thank you, Tanya. That was great. We're really interested in systemic activism and group letter writing. And there's a lot of times where our clients are unhappy with the law and or the policies at hand. And there's, you know, we can't change that. We can help navigate it, but we can't help change it. So sometimes we recommend that clients speak to their representatives. And sometimes, you know, when we say that, it's kind of just like, call this person, but we were hoping, and we appreciate Professor Dodas being here today. That way she could kind of break that down for you all. And we hope there's interest in it because we have seen it be effective. You know, we've had, Marie was telling me this morning that she had a client, you know, contact a representative and got a quick response through the agency. So I guess we'll open it up for live Q&A for the three of us. If anyone has any questions. I saw there was a question in the Q&A that was posted. And Marie, if you can speak to this, I think it might be out of my understanding, but I'm happy to do some legal research this afternoon. I know the person that posted the question, Victoria, left her email. It's, do you know if the Families First Act to provide up to 2 weeks PTO if you test positive or have to quarantine, currently ended December 31st, 2020, will likely be extended, only applies to employees without PTO or all regular full-time staff. I just got COVID-19 and had to use 5 sick days to cover the time I was off, wondering if I can get some sick days back. That's a niche question. I can't answer it off the cuff without a little legal research. Marie, I didn't know if you wanted to speak to that.
Yeah, I feel like we would, I mean, if she wants to contact us, or if, you know, we can see about opening up a case for her, because that's like, it all depends on like what kind of employer you have. I know that that pay time leave did end on December 31st, and now it's optional. It doesn't mean that your employer can automatically just get out of paying you for your pay time leave. So I think it just, the question is like, we need to first see like what kind of work do you do? You know, what is your employer contract? Before we can just give you a specific answer. But that is a good question. Like I said, like Constance said, you know, we would have to do some research on it, but also we would need to know more information about what is your workplace situation like.
Michelle, I know we're running up way past the time. Do you want to go over any Q&A questions, or would you rather us post? I'm happy to share my email if people want to email me their questions.
I think if they could email you, I do have one more question. Clarifying, this is from earlier. Murray, clarifying, someone does not need to include the $600 and $1,200 income when filing their taxes. I'm assuming you have to probably say that you received it, but you're not going to be taxed on it is what I thought based off your answer, your slide earlier. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yeah. And then if you're receiving unemployment benefits for the whole year of 2020, you do have to file taxes as well. So, I mean, I know that's a different issue, but we've had questions about that. You know, people telling us, oh, I don't have to file for taxes. No, you still have to. LWC should be issuing a 1099-G form to all claimants by January 31st. It might take a little longer, but you should be reporting that, especially if you didn't opt into your taxes being taken out while you were receiving your unemployment benefits.
And Marie, that is the perfect plug and transition for our next month's Know Your Rights. So we're going to talk about tax complications during COVID-19. So it's on February 11th. You can sign up at the same link that you signed up for this webinar. These are free webinars, so and they will be posted online after we've recorded it. So Constance, I don't know if you want to, do you want to give them your email address? Or
I just posted it to the chat. My email is going to be ctullier@slls.org. I see some good questions in here. I'll try to get back to you as soon as I can if you want to send me those individual questions since we've run over.
Great. And so thank you so much, Professor, for joining us and talking about advocacy. I think that is a great topic. I mean, we really need it in the hospitality industry right now. And Constance and Marie, thank you so much. You guys always do such a great job. Thanks for joining us. Have a great week.
Thanks, Michelle.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.